Okay, sorry about that. Um, my for some reason that disconnected. Okay. Um, so where were we? Um, I'll start again from so Vayomer lo lech na, go please, or now. Re'e et shlom achecha, to see. So see if it is well. Again, like I said, to ask somebody's health, to say shalom, right? To in Hebrew means to actually mention, talk to someone, say hi to them. So it's related to what it was saying before. So yeah, I'm not really sure how you translate that uh, to show that the shlom is again going back to they were not able to speak to him peaceably, right? That shlom hatzon and how the flock is doing, vahashiveni, and so bring back to me, right? Lahashiv, written bechisaron here. It's the hefil of to bring back. Um, davar, word. Yeah. So what's going on? Um, Vayishlachehu, and he sent him, right? Shleach again. Emek Chevron, from the valley. Emek Amuk actually means deep, right? So Emek is a valley, like Emek Habacha, the um, valley of um, tears, I guess is how it's translated. Not Valley of the Shadow of Death. That's Getz al Mavet. V'yavo Shchema, and he came, right? Lavo. And the hay at the end is again the directional hay towards Shchem. Okay. Verse 15. So he said, I am seeking my brothers. Please tell me where they are feeding their flocks. He replied, I'm looking for my brothers. Can you tell me where they are grazing their flocks? So he said, no, we read that. Then a man found him. Oops, did I skip? I skipped 15. Now a certain man found him, and there he was, wandering in the field. And the man asked him, saying, What are you seeking? A man found him wandering around in the fields and asked him, What are you looking for? Then a man found him, and behold, he was straying in the field. And the man asked him, saying, What are you looking for? V'yimtsaehu ish v'hinei to'e basadeh. V'yishal'ehu ha'ish le'emor ma tevakesh. Interesting. V'yimatzehu, so, and found him. Limtzo is to find, right? Matzah, metzia, with an aleph. Ish, a man, right? Who that is. V'hine, and behold, to'e basadeh. So to'e, actually we use to mean make a mistake, to err. But I guess here it's, yeah, I'm not sure I would translate it as wandering. How did Chabad translate it? Straying. Um, physically wander about, of intoxication. Ethically, to make a mistake, to err. Yeah. Um, Vehine to'e basadeh. So he was wandering. Yeah. I would almost translate this as lost. Basadeh, in the field. There is the article in the vocalizations there. Vayishalehu. So shoel is the root to ask. So, and he asked him, Ha'ish, this man, le'emor, saying, Ma tevakesh. So, are you seeking? A bakasha is a request. What do you want? Is more how I would beg, require, search, seek. Yeah. Bikesh. I would translate that. What did you want? What are you looking for? And Rashi says that the Ish is the angel Gabriel, because Daniel 9:21 says V'ha'ish Gabriel, right? Speaks of Gabriel as Ish. So that's how he's understanding it. Okay, next verse, which I think I read already. So he said, I am seeking my brothers. Please tell me where they are feeding their flocks. He replied, I'm looking for my brothers. Can you tell me where they are grazing their flocks? And he said, I am looking for my brothers. Tell me now, where are they pasturing? Vayomer et achai anochi mevakesh hagida na li efohem roim. So he said, et achai anochi mevakesh. So we do have, so this anochi, so apparently linguistically they say that it is actually the less formal, and then it became the more formal, but we do have this kind of tradition of reading the verse when it talks about Anochi to be talking about God, right? But I am seeking, I am looking for, I would like my brothers at Achai, Anochi mevakesh, or God wants. It's in the present tense. Hagida na, so please tell me, right? Li, to me. Eifo means where. It's the question word. Hem ro'im. They are, I would translate it shepherding, but pasturing, yeah. Okay, verse 17. And the man said, they have departed from here, for I heard them say, let us go to Dothan. So Joseph went after his brothers and found them in Dothan, or Dothan, however you say that. We'll see how it is in the Hebrew. I believe it's Dothan. They have moved on from here, the man answered. I heard them say, let's go to Dothan. So Joseph went after his brothers and found them near Dothan. And the man said, they have traveled away from here, for I overheard them say, let us go to Dothan. So Joseph went after his brothers, and he found them in Dothan. Okay, I'm not going to read the Rashis. Vayomer ha'ish nas'u mizeh ki shamati omrim nelcha dotaina v'yelech Yosef achar echav v'yimtze'em bedotan. Okay. So the man said to him, nas'u. So linsoa in modern Hebrew actually means to drive, but to go, to travel, to, I guess, depart. Not sure I'd say that. Mizeh, from this, which is an interesting way of saying this place. Ki shamati, Indeed, I heard, for I heard, because I heard. Omrim, saying, it's in the present tense. Nelcha dotana, let us go. All right, the hey is cohortative. Dotaina, so the hey is the directional hey. Dotan, right? Dotaina, towards Dotan. Vayelech, so went Yosef. Achar Achav, after his brothers. Vayimtzaem, and he found them. Be Dotan, in Dotan. Okay. Now, when they saw him afar off, even before he came near them, they conspired against him to kill him. But they saw him in the distance, and before he reached them, they plotted to kill him. And they saw him from afar, and when he had not yet drawn near to them, they plotted against him to put him to death. Okay. Veyiru oto merachok uvterem yikrav alehem v'yitnaklu. Interesting. V'yitnaklu. Huh. Oto lahamito. Okay. So V'yiruoto, they saw him. Merachok, from afar, written without vav. Uv terem yikrav, and before he came close, right? Yeah, I mean, it's a weird way of phrasing these things, but it translates simply in English. Alehem, onto them, right? So preposition to aleph. V'yitnalku. So this is the hitpa'el of nun chaf lamed, nakal, to be crafty, deceitful, or knavish. Used 4 times in the Bible. Psalm 105:25 is also in the hitpa'el. Hafach libam lisno amo lehitnakel ba'avadav. Assyrian nakalu, be crafty, cunning. Syriac, deceive, plot. Amharic. So Malachi 1:14, Ve'arur nochal v'yesh be'edro zachar v'noder v'zoveach mashchat la'ad ki melech gadol ani amar havaya tzvakot u'shmi nora bagoyim. So it's in the reflexive, and I apparently it means to be deceitful. So they were deceitful amongst themselves. The reflexive can also mean to do things together, like in Hebrew, if you say see you later, you say lehitraot, right? Or until we write, correspond, lehit katev. So yeah. Oto lahamito. So they were deceitful amongst themselves regarding him to put him to death. Lahamit is the hefil, it's the causative of memvav taf, to cause him to die. I'm not sure I would translate that as to kill him. Lahamito is not really, I mean, laharog is to kill. L'ratzeach is to murder. Lahamit means to put to death, to cause the death of. Yeah, that's how I would translate him. Yeah. I wouldn't translate it to kill him, lahamito, because that's not what the word really means. Just seems to me. Okay. Next verse. 19. Then they said to one another, "Look, this dreamer, master of dreams, is coming." Here comes that dreamer, they said to each other. So they said, one to the other, "Behold, that dreamer is coming." Vayomru ish el achiv, interesting way of putting it. Hine baal hachalomot halazeh ba. Okay, this is, the words are, the meaning of the words is simple, but the way of putting it isn't that simple, really. And they said, ish el achiv, a man to his brother, each to each other, one to the other. A man to his brother, ish el achiv. Hine, behold, Baal hachalomot, the master of dreams, the one who dreams. The word Baal is used commonly in Hebrew, so it's not as, but yeah, I would probably translate this as the master of dreams. Halazeh, this guy, that guy, halazeh. Yeah, I would probably translate this. Look, this guy, the master of dreams. Yeah, the master of dreams, the dreamer, or the dreamer. The article always goes on the last word of the construct chain. Ba is coming. Yeah, you just, the translation just doesn't give the flavor. It means the same thing. It just doesn't have the same flavor. Come, therefore, let us now kill him and cast him into some pit. And we shall say, some wild beast has devoured him. We shall see what will become of his dreams. Come now, let's kill him and throw him into one of these cisterns and say that a ferocious animal devoured him. Then we'll see what comes of his dreams. So now let us kill him, and we will cast him into one of the pits, and we will say a wild beast devoured him, and we will see what will become of his dreams. Not going to read the Rashis. V'ata lechu v'nahargehu, v'nashlichehu b'achad haborot, v'amarnu chaya ra'a achalathu. Interesting. Since we don't really use these suffixes very much in modern Hebrew or Rabbinic Hebrew, it's hard for me to see how it should be vocalized. ונראה מה יהיו חלומותיו. Okay. So, and now, therefore, va'ata I would translate as now. Lechu, come, right? It's the command form. It's actually masculine plural, right? Yeah. Nahargehu, and we will kill him. So this is hereg. This is to kill, laharog. Yeah, and we will kill. Let us kill him. It's in the cohortive, I believe. Conjunctive imperfect, cohortative if contextual. Yeah. V'nashlichehu. So this is the other shlach, not with a chaf, but I mean not with a het, but with a chaf. So we will throw him. Throw, fling, cast. Ba'achad haborot, in one of the, however you want to translate, bore, pits, cisterns, wells. Yeah, and if you're paying attention to the chisarons and miluis, there's a lot of interesting ones in these verses, if you're paying attention. The amarnu, and we said to, and we will say, right? Yeah. So, we will say. Yeah, that's how I would translate it. Chaya ra'ah, a wild beast, literally a bad and evil beast, but really it's a wild beast. Achalathu, devoured him. Oh, because chaya is feminine. That's why. Okay, now I get it. So it achla oto or achalathu. Yeah. It's feminine because chaya is feminine. Okay. Venir'eh, and we will see, again with the cohortative, hey at the end. Well, kind of. Yeah. Ma yihyu chalomotav. What will become of his dreams? Yeah. What his dreams shall be. Okay. Verse 21. But Reuben heard it, and he delivered him out of their hands, and said, "Let us not kill him." But Reuben heard this. He tried to rescue him from their hands. "Let's not take his life," he said. But Reuben heard, and he saved him from their hands, and he said, "Let us not deal him a deadly blow." Vayishma Reuven, interesting. Vayatzilehu miyadam, vayomer lo nakenu nafesh. Interesting. Okay, so Vayishma and heard Reuven. So apparently Reuven did not know of it before. So he heard of it. Interesting. What does Rashi say? Vayishma. He doesn't say. Okay. Vayatzilehu, right? So Hatzala is deliverance, rescue. In modern Hebrew, Hatzala is the emergency, like ambulance stuff. Vayatzilehu. So it's the hefil, it's the causative, caused him to be saved. Miyadam, from their hands. And you may, this is a lot like in the Passover Haggadah, we say, V'akadosh baruch hu hitzilanu miyadam. yeah, saved us from them. Vayomer na, Vayomer lo, and he said no, nakenu. So this is lahakot. It's the causative of to strike, to hit. Nafesh. It turns into nafesh because it's at the end of the sentence. To strike a life to cause death. Literally, it's let us not strike a soul, a nefesh, right? Yeah. I'm wondering what Rashi says. Lona can literally let us not smite him the soul. This is equivalent to makat nafesh. Let us not deal him a deadly blow, which means death, from Targum Onkelos. Okay. Next verse. And Reuven said to him, "Shed no blood, but cast him into this pit, which is in the wilderness, and do not lay a hand on him, that he might deliver him out of their hands, and bring him back to his father." 22. Don't shed any blood. Throw him into this cistern here in the wilderness, but don't lay a hand on him. Reuven said this to rescue him from them and take him back to his father. And Reuven said to them, "Do not shed blood. Cast him into this pit, which is in the desert. But do not lay a hand upon him, in order to save him from their hands, to return him to his father." Vayomer alehem Reuven, al tishpechu dam, hashlichu oto el habor hazeh, asher bamidbar, vayad al tishlechu bo, lema'an hatzil oto miadam, lahashivo el aviv. So he said to them, right, President Aleph, Reuven, al, so no, don't, tishpechu, so shofech literally means to spill. And shfichat dam, to spill blood, is to shed blood, is to kill, right? Al tishpechu dam, don't spill blood. Hashlichu, so this is the causative, so throw him. Again, this is with the chaf, not the het. Oto, el habor, again, preposition the aleph, the pit, or however you want to translate that. Hazeh, this one, right? This asher bamidbar, that is in the midbar. Midbar is usually translated as desert. Not sure why they're translating it as wilderness, but it could be. But bamidbar, yeah, it usually is translated as desert. V'yad al tishlechu, and you'll notice, I mean, it's using alliterative. Now it's using shiluach. This one is with the het, not with the chaf. Al tishlechu bo. Al tishlechu bo. Oh, v'yad al tishlechu bo. Sorry. Don't know where my mind is. Shiluach yad is like it's used in the Garden of Eden, right? To stretch out your hand. So don't lay a hand on him. Yeah. Lama'an, so that, right? Lama'an, hatzil oto, to cause him to be saved, to save him. Miyadam, from their hands. Well, it's funny, it's singular hand, their hand, literally, but lahashivo, to cause him to go back, right? It's the hefil, it's the causative of to bring back. El Aviv, to his father. Yeah. 23. So it came to pass, when Joseph had come to his brothers, that they stripped Joseph of his tunic, the tunic of many colors that was on him. So when Joseph came to his brothers, they stripped him of his robe, the ornate robe he was wearing. Anthony, wilderness is a common translation for midbar in English translations, especially in Exodus. I think it goes back to KJV. Okay. 23. Now it came to pass when Joseph came to his brothers that they stripped Joseph of his shirt, of the fine woolen coat which was upon him. Veyehi kasher ba Yosef el Echav, veyafshitu et Yosef et ketunato, kutanto, et ketonet hapasim asher alav. And it came to pass, and it was ka'asher, that when, ka'asher, interesting way of putting it, so came, Yosef, el echav, preposition of the aleph, veyafshitu. So pashat means to flatten or to straighten, and in the causative, it means to strip or to take out, right? So v'yafshitu et Yosef, and they stripped Yosef. They how did they translate it? Stripped, et Yosef, et. So this is a normal way of saying it. They took off his shirt. Veyafshitu oto et kutanto, his robe, his ketonet. It's not strange. It's how you would say it in Hebrew. I'm just not. Yeah, in English it kind of, I guess, all the ets make seem a little strange. In English, I guess. Et ketonet hapasim, right? However you're going to translate ketonet pasim. Asher alav, which was upon him. This is the preposition of the ayin. Okay, 24. Then they took him and cast him into a pit, and the pit was empty, there was no water in it. And they took him and threw him into the cistern was empty, there was no water in it. Wonder how deep it was. And they took him and cast him into the pit. Now the pit was empty, there was no water in it. And this is a very famous Rashi, which quotes the Gemara, the Talmud, which says, it was empty, there was no water in it. What is it saying? Since it says, now the pit was empty, do I not know that there was no water in it? For what purpose did the Torah write there was no water in it? To inform us there was no water in it, but there were snakes and scorpions in it. Okay. Vayikachehu vayashlichu oto habora v'habor rek ein bo mayim. So, and they took him, right? Vayikachehu vayashlichu. This is with the chaf. So they threw him. Oto habora. So the hay at the end again is the directional towards the bore. And this is interestingly with the chisaron and milui, if you're paying attention to that. Vahabor rek, and the pit Rek, empty. You might recognize this from where Jesus says the person who calls his fellow raka, right? Meaning empty, or plain, or yeah. Ein bo mayim. There was not any water in it. Ein bo, right? Yesh means yes, there is. Ein means there isn't. Yesh me'ayin means ex nihilo, something from nothing. Yesh bo mayim. Ein bo mayim. There was no water in it. Okay, verse 25. And they sat down to eat a meal. Then they lifted their eyes and looked, and there was a company of Ishmaelites coming from Gilead with their camels, bearing spices, balm, and myrrh, on their way to carry them down to Egypt. So this is where there's the whole thing, were they Ishmaelites, were they Midianites? Whole question, not going to get into it. And as they sat down to eat their meal, they looked up and saw a caravan of Ishmaelites coming from Gilead. Their camels were loaded with spices, balm, and myrrh, and they were on their way to take them down to Egypt. And they sat down to eat a meal, and they lifted their eyes and saw, and behold, a caravan of Ishmaelites was coming from Gilead, and their camels were carrying spices, balm, and lotus, going to take it down to Egypt. Okay. V'yeshvu le'echol lechem, v'yis'u einehem, v'yir'u, v'hine orchat Ishmaelim ba'a megilad ugamalehem nos'im nechot v'tzri valot holchim lahorid mitzrayma. Okay, so v'yeshvu, and they sat down, le'echol, to eat, lechem, bread, but a meal. Okay. V'yis'u einehem, and they lifted their eyes. So this is a common saying in Hebrew, to lift your eyes. V'yiru, and they looked. V'hine, and behold, orchat Ishmaelim. So oreach means a guest. So I am not sure why orcha. Active participle of arach, to wander, journey, go. Interesting. Lead, conduct. Oh, this is oreach, like. Oh. A path. Not I must have been thinking of or arach with a chaf. No, oreach is a guest. And apparently orchat is also used in Isaiah, talking about caravan also. Traveler, Aramaic, oreach. Okay. Yeah, so company, I guess, yeah. Ishmaelim, of Ishmaelites. Ba'a was coming. And it's feminine because orcha is feminine. Migilad, from Gilad. Ugmalehem, and their camels, nosim, literally, nosim means raising up. Here it means carrying, right? So nosim. Don't confuse this with a samech. This is with a sin. Nechot. That is a word I don't know. So they're saying spices. It's used twice in the Bible, and yeah, from nakah, to smite or scourge. And that's used once in Job. Did not know this word. Okay, spices, I will take their word for it. Let's see what Rashi says. Nachat. Any collection of many spices is called nachot. Similarly, and he shows them his entire storeroom of spices. 2 Kings 20:13. The compounding of his spices. Onkelos, however, renders it as a word meaning wax. Okay. Utsri, so they're translating it as balm. Tsori, I know, is one of the spices that's used in the I thought tsori is used in the spices and in the incense. From an unused word meaning root meaning to crack, as by pressure. Balsam, as merchandise, medicament in Jeremiah. Is there no balm in Gilead? I actually know that more from The Raven by Edgar Allan Poe than I do from the Bible. Thinks a resin. Encyclopedia Biblica. Gum of mastic tree. Yeah, it is what it is. Okay. Valot. And whatever lot is. Myrrh. Huh. An aromatic gum. Assyrian ladunu from Damascus. Compare Arabic, probably from lute to rap. Huh. Let's see what Rashi says. So, Tsri, he says, which is enumerated from the incense. I thought so. Yeah. Aha. Okay. So in the Bible it's called Nataf. Yeah, I thought Sri was thing. Okay, and Lot. This is called Lotita in the language of the Mishnah Shvit. Our sages define it as an herb in Tractate Nida. Okay. Yeah. Holchim lahorid Mitzrayma. Going to carry them down, bring them down, right? Anytime you're going, it's funny, but if you're going to Israel, it's always referred to as going up. Anytime you're leaving Israel, it's going down. And anytime you're going into Egypt, it's going down. So, yeah. Mitzrayma. So again, this is the directional hey towards Mitzrayim, towards Egypt. Okay, verse 26. So Judah said to his brothers, "What profit is there if we kill our brother and conceal his blood?" Judah said to his brothers, "What will we gain if we kill our brother and cover up his blood?" And Judah said to his brothers, "What is the gain if we slay our brother and cover up his blood?" Vayomer Yehuda el Echav ma betza ki naharog et achinu vekisinu et damo. So it is not like in English where down is south. So even when you're going from Syria, let's say, or Damascus, even if you're going literally south to Israel, and actually always to Jerusalem, it's always said to go up. And to leave Israel is always considered to go down. So, again, I don't think they had. So the directions in Hebrew. So east is called Mizrach, which is the place of Zoreach. So where there is the cresting, there is the sun coming up, right? Mizrach. Ma'arav comes from twilight. Erev means combining, but so Erev also means evening. So Ma'arav, place of either twilight, combining, or going down, evening, right? North is called Tzafon, which literally means hidden. And south is sometimes called Darom and sometimes Negba. So Negba literally means towards the desert, the Negev, right? Which actually comes from being dry. And Darom, I don't know what Darom comes from. Darom. Yeah, so those are the directions in Hebrew. But anytime you're going to Egypt, it's always down. Anytime you're going to Israel, it's always up. And that's actually how we refer to moving to Israel as aliyah, right? Of going up. Okay. Where were we? Narog et achinu vekisinu et damo. Okay, so Yehuda said, El Achav, to his brothers, Ma betza, what's betza? And I think betza actually refers to dough. Gain made by violence. From batza. To break off, gain by violence. Maybe I'm thinking of with an iron? No, this is with an iron. Maybe I'm probably thinking of dough with an aleph. Unjust gains. It's actually used a lot in the Bible. Well, not so much in the Torah. Not so much. But, yeah. What gain a profit? What did Rashi have to say? Bets. What, as the Targum enters, money. Ma betza ki naharog, that we kill, right? That we will kill, or that we would kill. Et achinu, our brother. Vekisinu et damo, and we will literally cover his blood. Lachasot means to cover. There is actually a mitzvah of covering the blood of wild animals you kill, or birds. So when they slaughter chickens, they do kisui dam. Yeah. I mean, it's pretty simple stuff. Not too complicated. Okay. Verse 27. Come and let us sell him to the Ishmaelites, and let not our hand be upon him, for he is our brother and our flesh. And his brothers listened. Come, let's sell him to the Ishmaelites, and not lay our hands on him. After all, he is our brother, our own flesh and blood. His brothers agreed. Come, let us sell him to the Ishmaelites, but our hand shall not be upon him, for he is our brother, our flesh. And his brothers hearkened. Interesting. Lechu v'nimkerenu leishmaelim v'yadenu al tihi bo, ki achinu besarenu hu v'yishma'u echav. Okay, so command form lechu, right? Let us, or come, right? V'nimkerenu. So mocher is to sell, right? So v'nimkerenu, we will sell him. La Ishmaelim, to the Ishmaelites. There is the article there in the thing. Ve'yadenu, and our hand, singular hand. Al tehibo, will not be upon him. Ki achinu, because he is our brother. Besarenu, our flesh. Who? So the pronoun is being used as the present tense of the verb to be. Ve'yishma'u echav. So Rashi is saying that it has to do with Shema, right? It's a significant listening to. Yeah, and you can see all the things that he turns on it. So they listened to him, and they agreed with him, kind of. Yeah. Ve'yishma'u oto echav, his brothers. Okay, next verse. Then Midianite traders passed by, so the brothers pulled Joseph up and lifted him out of the pit, and sold him to the Ishmaelites for 20 shekels of silver. And they took Joseph to Egypt. So when the Midianite merchants came by, his brothers pulled Joseph up out of the cistern and sold him for 20 shekels. That is about 8 ounces, or about 230 grams of silver, to the Ishmaelites, who took him to Egypt. The Midianite merchants passed by, and they pulled and lifted Joseph from the pit, and they sold Joseph to the Ishmaelites for 20 silver pieces, and they brought Joseph to Egypt. Ve'ya'avru anashim midyanim sochorim ve'yimshechu ve'ya'alu et Yosef min habor ve'yimkaru et Yosef la Ishmaelim be'esrim kasef ve'yaviu et Yosef Mitzrayma. Okay, so, and passed by, right? So ever means to cross. Ivri actually comes from the same root. Anashim Midyanim, Midianite men. Socharim, so traders. Yeah, socher is a merchant. So they're merchants. Ve'yimshechu ve'ya'alu et Yosef. So meshech means to pull, right? Ya'al means to raise up, right? So yeah, it's the hefil. So They pulled him and they raised him up, et Yosef, min habor, from the pit, v'yimkaru et Yosef, and they sold the Joseph la Ishmaelim, to the Ishmaelites, be'esrim kesef, for 20 kesef, for 20 silver. What exactly of silver? It doesn't say, just 20 silver. Vayaviu, and they caused him to come, or they took him. Yosef Mitzrayma. So again, that's the directional hay towards Egypt. 29. Then Reuven returned to the pit, and indeed Joseph was not in the pit, and he tore his clothes. When Reuven returned to the cistern and saw that Joseph was not there, he tore his clothes. And Reuven returned to the pit, and behold, Joseph was not in the pit, so he rent his garments. Vayashav Reuven el habor, vehine ein Yosef babor, v'yikra et bagadav. So, returned, vayashav, Reuven, el, preposition aleph, habor, the pit, vehine, and behold, ein Yosef babor, there was no Joseph in the pit. And yeah, I mean, it's an interesting way of saying it. Ein Yosef, there was no more. If you translate his name into a word, babor, in the pit, veyikra et begadav, and he tore his clothes. Kriya is to tear. That's with an ayin. Okay, verse 30. And he returned to his brothers and said, the lad is no more, and I, where shall I go? He went back to his brothers and said, the boy isn't there, where can I turn now? And he returned to his brothers and said, the boy is gone, and I, where will I go? Vayashav el Achav, vayomer, hayeled einenu, va'ani anna ani ba. Interesting. Obviously, there's a lot of alliteration here, so it's a thing. But so he went back to his brothers, preposition with the aleph, vayomer, and he said, hayeled einenu. The boy is missing. The boy isn't. He's not there. Yeah. Va'ani anna ani va. And as for me, where, to what, how will I go? Yeah. Interesting. Okay, verse 31. So they took Joseph's tunic, killed a kid of the goats, and dipped the tunic in the blood. Then they got Joseph's robe, slaughtered a goat, and dipped the robe in the blood. And they took Joseph's coat, and they slaughtered a kid, and they dipped the coat in the blood. Vayikhu et ketonet Yosef, vayishchatu seir izim, vayitbelu et haketonet kutonet badam. So, and they took the robe of Yosef. It's in the construct form with Yosef, right? So Joseph's robe. Vayishchatu, and so shchita is to slaughter. And they slaughtered seir izim. So a goat kid, a young goat, yeah, seir izim. V'yitbalu et hakutonet badam, And literally, so Tovel, this is actually, so Christians will call baptism tefillah, immerses. It's to immerse or dip into a liquid, into water. So they dipped the robe badam, in the blood. 32. Then they sent the tunic of many colors, and they brought it to their father and said, "We have found this. Do you know where it is your son's tunic? Whether it is your son's tunic or not?" They took the ornate robe back to their father and said, "We found this. Examine it to see whether it is your son's robe." And they took Joseph's coat, and they we read that. And they sent the fine woolen coat, and they brought it to their father, and they said, "We have found this. Now recognize whether it is your son's coat or not." Vayishalchu et ketonet hapasim ויביאו אל אביהם ויאמרו זאת מצאנו הכר נא הכתונת בנך היא אם לא. Okay, so, and they sent the robe, the ketonet pasim, however you want to translate that, ויביאו, and they brought it to their father, preposition Aleph. Zot matzanu, we found this. Hakerna, so recognize, lahakir means to recognize something. Hakerna, please, or now. Haketonet, the robe. Binchahi, so yeah, it's not quite sure if that hey should be considered a article or a question. They seem to be translating it as they seem to all be translating it as an article, not making it a question. Haketonet binchahi. If it is your son's robe, I guess. And do not be confused by the fact he is written with a vav. That happens a lot in the Torah. Im lo, if not, or not. Yeah, I guess that if not makes it more sense that it's an article and it's not asking it as a question. Okay, 33. And he recognized it and said, "It is my son's tunic. A wild beast has devoured him. Without doubt, Joseph is torn to pieces." He recognized it and said, "It is my son's robe. Some ferocious animal has devoured him. Joseph has surely been torn to pieces." He recognized it and he said, "It is my son's coat. A wild beast has devoured him. Joseph has surely been torn up." I'm not going to do the Rashis. Okay. Vayakira, that's an aspirated hay. We'll talk about that. Vayomer, ketonet beni chaya ra'a achalathu, yeah. Toraf Yosef. So, Vayakira, and he recognized it. So that aspirated hay is the third person feminine singular. That's why it has a dagesh in it, and that's why it's actually, you say it, Vayakira. So he recognized ketonet is feminine, so that's why it's and not Vayakiro. Vayomer, and he said, "Ketonet beni, it is my son's robe. Chaya ra'a achalat hu. So it's feminine because chaya is feminine. A wild beast, that's how we translated it before, or an evil beast, I guess you could do. Ate him. Tarof toraf Yosef. So litrof means to tear or to tear away. You might recognize it from treifa, which means something that's not kosher, because that type of animal, like an animal that's been ripped to pieces, is not considered kosher. Tear, seize, especially of creditors, torn flesh of animals, depasture said of camels. And it's actually used a lot. But what you might recognize it as is treifa means food that's not kosher, because an animal that's been killed is not kosher, that's been ripped to pieces. So tarof toraf has surely been. That's how they usually translate this doubling of language in Hebrew, Yosef. And yes, I mean, Tarof Toraf Yosef. Notice the alliteration. Okay, 34. Then Jacob tore his clothes, put sackcloth on his waist, and mourned for his son many days. Then Jacob tore his clothes, put on sackcloth, and mourned for his son many days. And Jacob rent his garments, and he put sackcloth on his loins, and he mourned for his son many days. Vayikra Yaakov simlotav, vayasem sak bemotnav, vayit'abel al beno yamim rabim. Notice all the sins here. And yes, it is being poetic here. Vayikra Yaakov. I hope you recognize all the alliteration. This is a very alliterative text. So Yaakov tore simlotav. So a simla is a cloth, is dress. In modern Hebrew is more so a wrapper or mantle. Simlotav, so his mantles, his clothes. V'yasem sak, and he put on sackcloth. Is sak, how sak is usually translated, of uncertain derivation, possibly Egyptian, don't know. Be'motnav, on his waist, on his loins, Veyit abel al beno, and he, so it's the reflexive of mourning, Veyit abel al beno, regarding his son, preposition of the ayin. Yamim rabim, many days. 35. And all his sons and all his daughters, he only had one daughter, arose to comfort him. But he refused to be comforted. And he said, for I shall go down into the grave to my son in mourning. Thus his father wept for him. All his sons and daughters came to comfort him. But he refused to be comforted. No, he said, I will continue to mourn until I join my son in the grave. So his father wept for him. And all his sons and all his daughters, now I'm going to have to read the Rashi because, arose to console him. But he refused to be consoled. For he said, because I will descend on account of my son as a mourner to the grave. And his father wept for him. And all his daughters, Rabbi Yehuda said, twin sisters were born with every tribe, each of the Shvatim, each of the 12 sons of the thing. And they married them. Rabbi Nehemiah says they were Canaanite women, but what is the meaning of all his daughters? A person does not hesitate to call his son-in-laws his son, and his daughter-in-laws his daughters. Apparently, it's from Genesis Rabbah. Yeah. Vayakumu kol banav v'chol benotav lenahamo vayama'en v'lehitnachem vayomer ki ered el beni avel she'ola vayevk oto aviv. Interesting. Okay. So vayakumu, and arose, got up. Kol banav v'chol benotav. Again, this text, I mean, the chisarons and the miluis are a bit strange for me. Benotav, his daughters. Lenahamo, to comfort him. Vayima'en, and he refused. Lehit nachem, to be comforted. And this is actually, I did a whole video on the root nachem, because it says that God is not a man, lehit nachem, to change his mind. It's the exact same word here, to be comforted. Vayomer, and he said, Ki ered el beni avel, because I shall go down to my son, preposition of the Aleph, avel, as a mourner, in mourning. She'ola, towards, the hay is the directional hay, towards She'ol, towards the grave. Vayevk, and he cried. Oto aviv, regarding him, his, so mourned him. Yeah, I guess what Vayevk means he cried. Oto aviv, regarding him, for him, his father. 36, last verse. Now the Midianites, Masoretic text Medanites, had sold him in Egypt to Potiphar, an officer of Pharaoh and captain of the guard. Meanwhile, the Midianites, Samaritan Pentateuch, Septuagint, Vulgate, and Syriac, see also verse 28, Masoretic text Medanites, sold Joseph in Egypt to Potiphar, one of Pharaoh's officials, the captain of the guard. And the Midianites sold him to Egypt to Potiphar, Pharaoh's chamberlain, chief of the slaughterers. I'm not sure why they decided that Medanim needs to be needs to somehow be distinguished from Midianim.